ይስጥልኝ አድማጮቻችን፣ ይህ የኢትዮጵያን ድምፅ ሚዲያ ነው። ኢትዮጵያን ቮይስ ሚዲያ የአማራ ማህበር በአሜሪካ AMHARA ASOSATION of America ሊቀመንበር አቶ ቴድሮስ ትርፌ፣ የአማራ ማህበራት ህብረት በሰሜን አሜሪካ የህዝብ ግንኙነት ኃላፊ አቶ ተመስገን መንግስቱን ሰሞኑን እጅግ አወዛጋቢ በሆነው የህግ ረቂቅ በHR6600 ጉዳይ ላይ ሰፋ ያለ ገለጻ አድርገዋል። በተለያየ መልኩ የቀረቡትንም ጥያቄዎች በማብራራት መልስ ሰጥተውበታል። አድማጮቻችን ተከታተሉ። የአድማጮቻችን የዩቲዩብ ቻናላችንን ላይክ፣ ሼር፣ ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ ቤተሰብ እንዲሆኑን እንጋብዛለን። ጤና ይስጥልኝ።
Thank you, Teddy. There's a couple of people that are asking me.
Just one quick thing I wanted to add. One of the things that part of the reason why we felt that we had to come public and issue our press statement and also go before the media was because there was deliberate confusion made by some of these pro-Abiy media outlets and activists about HR6600. It does not prevent you from sending remittance to Ethiopia. It does not prevent you from sending money to help your family in Ethiopia and friends. As I said earlier, we have raised $1.8 million and we do a lot of work in Ethiopia. We have, provided free food to over 80,000 people. We have deployed 40 doctors to provide free medical services. We have provided training to 723 AMHARA women who were raped, and we have a long way to go to help these young women. It's going to take us many years. We are helping the families of many of the finals and militias who were killed, who need help. That would completely impact our project. We have no interest in doing that. The authors of this bill, the co-sponsors of this bill, have no interest in doing that. It doesn't make any sense. That was a deliberate attempt to confuse the public, and we thought that was wrong. This bill does not prevent Ethiopians from investing in Ethiopia. For example, buying a house. Buying a house for your family or buying a house as an investment, starting a business. This bill does not prevent you from doing that. It does not even prevent foreign direct investment. If another country wants to invest in Ethiopia, it can do that. If a corporation wants to open a factory in Ethiopia, it can do that. It's only referring to international financial institutions, which the United States government can then use its vote because they have a seat there, or its voice to stop that. Some of the things that they also said that we thought was really inaccurate, and we wanted to make sure that people clearly understand was there was accusations that the AAA contributes to political candidates here in the United States. AAA is a 501c3 organization. It is illegal for AAA or any 501c3 organization, to contribute to political candidates. Many of you here might be, board members of 501c3 organization, and you know that. Many of you here might be supporters of a 501c3 organization, and so it's important for you to understand that 501c3 organizations it is illegal to contribute to political candidates. That's a mischaracterization of AAA and who we are as an organization. The other thing that was stated by these pro-Abiy media outlets was that that the document that they had obtained was some kind of a leaked secret document. This is an email that was sent to our supporters. About that particular email update probably went to about 20,000 people. This is a public document. Maybe some of you here might have received that email. So we update our members about all the work that we're doing because we are a civic organization. We have an obligation to do that. We receive funding from our supporters. So if we don't tell our supporters the work that we are doing, how their money is being used, why would they continue to support us? And we're also always looking for new financial supporters. So we have to be transparent as an organization. We are a civic organization. So there's nothing secret about what we do. Another thing is that about AAA hiring a lobbyist. you know, we are not the only Ethiopian American organization that has a lobbyist. Other Ethiopian American organizations have lobbyists, and it's legal to hire lobbyists. Even individuals can hire a lobbyist because it's part of your freedom of speech here in the United States. It's legal, it's protected. But we did that to scale our advocacy efforts for AMHARAs in Ethiopia. So there were a lot of misinformation that was put out there, and we felt that, you know, we had to you know, set the facts straight and come out so that people understand. We want AMHARAs to actively participate in the U.S. democratic process. We want AMHARAs to, if they're citizens, to register to vote and vote. It's election season. Your members of Congress are going to be coming home and, you know, and campaigning. They're going to have town halls. We want you to go there. You are the premier experts on Ethiopia. You know more about Ethiopia than these members of Congress or their foreign affairs staffers. You can educate them. You can advocate for the things that you believe in. In addition to that, if you are a green card holder or a citizen, you can also contribute to political candidates, political campaigns. It's legal, and you should. It's part of your freedom. Your protected, First Amendment right, and it's a way for you to have an impact in the democratic process here, to have your voice heard. And so that was something that was, that we felt was a disservice that was done by these pro-Abiy media outlets and activists, because we feel that it is really critically important that AMHARAs participate in the democratic process. We are fortunate to have the opportunity to live in the most powerful country in the world. So we pay taxes, we work hard, we care about what's happening to AMHARAs. We love this country called Ethiopia. Why not be active? Why not be engaged? And the other thing that we want is, we want AMHARAs to make their own decisions. We're telling AMHARAs and the broader Ethiopian American community, here is how we see HR6600. Here is how we see Senate Bill 3199. There are two different bills. What's written on one bill and what's written on another bill is completely different. But here is what we believe. Here's what we think are important. Go read it. Go understand it. If you have questions, we're more than happy to try to answer. But then also you can call the authors. You can call the co-sponsors and then come to your own decision. You don't have to, you don't have to support or oppose a bill or any legislation because of AAA. At the same time, you don't have to support or oppose any legislation because of what the pro-Abiy media outlets are saying. Let's understand that their interest is to stay in power. Their interest does not align with the interests of the AMHARA people. If it was, they would be protecting AMHARAs. And now we saw what the Abiy administration did with the truth. I know that's a long-winded answer. I apologize, but I wanted to make sure everyone is clear, because there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation going on. And one part of our goal is to make sure that Ethiopian Americans here have the proper information to make an informed decision.
That's absolutely okay with me, and I'm sure it's the small audience that we have. It's okay, because we need really to understand what it is. Personally, listening to the YouTube that you have done with Mager Media, and then today I learned great links, you and Damascus. So the question is from again from Colorado Task Force, and there's a couple of brothers they want to ask a question from the web link. So በአማርኛ HR, I think you answered it, but I'm going to ask you just since this question came up from Ethiopian Colorado Task Force, from so Teddy is also the same name. HR66 ከጸደቀ ወደ ኢትዮጵያ ለቤተሰብ ገንዘብ መላክ አይቻልም። ይህ ምን ያህል እውነት ነው? So you answered it, but just a little bit so we can have a better understanding. If HR66, like you said, it's a long shot, but if it passes, would I be able to send money to Ethiopia? Would that affect me there, Ethiopians? would I be able to buy a house to invest in Ethiopia? That was the question. The other question is, the gentleman who's sitting right here, he asked two questions. One I asked you earlier. The second question he asked is, if this pass, the HR6600 pass, በአማርኛ ነገር ማንነትን ተኮር ያደረገ ጭፍጨፋና ስርዓት ይቆማል ወይ? This based on who you are, especially in AMHARA, that's a lot of people, even though a lot of our communities in Ethiopia has been killed. Specifically, the killing has happening for the last over 20, 30 years in AMHARA. So would this stop, and how, if it does, if it passes? Thirdly is my question personally. I would like to take this opportunity.
Can I answer these two first, or else I'm going to forget? I want to make sure I get to everybody's question.
Absolutely. Then we'll go to the web. Thank you.
Okay. I think I've answered this before. So just to be clear, and I don't mind repeating. I don't have a problem. I have kids, so I repeat all the time. So one, this is if it passes, right? And as I explained earlier, in order for a bill to become law, this is separate from a resolution, right? A resolution does not become law, right? This is a bill. In order for a bill to become law, there has to be a bill in the House, a bill in the Senate. They both have to pass both chambers, but both have to be identical. There's a long process for them to become identical, then sent to the president to become law. If this happens, right? So this is if. You still will be able to send money to your family. You still will be able to invest in Ethiopia, to buy a house, start a small business, a hotel, a restaurant, whatever you want. This does not prevent you from doing that. Your other question was?
The other question is if, even though some people, they don't want to admit it, the government doesn't admit it, there's genocide. So if deal passed, would that stop the killing in AMHARA that's been going on for the last 4 years?
So this is one of the reasons why the Abiy administration does not like the bill, and they only talk about, oh, it's going to hurt Ethiopia, it's going to hurt Ethiopia. This bill asks for an independent investigation of and determination of atrocities everywhere in Ethiopia, atrocities including war crimes, crimes against humanity, and also genocide. So ask yourself this: who's killing Amaras in the so-called Oromia region? Last year, the Benshangul Gumuz government, that is part of the Prosperity Party, they admitted, and it was covered by the news, that their members, senior members, were helping Gumuz militants kill Amaras. So then, who's going to be held responsible? The killings that are happening, the rape, the extrajudicial killings that are happening, that were occurring in Wollo, in Shua, in South Gondar, Adarkai, Talab. Who's doing that? That's TPLF. So government officials, members of Prime Minister Abiy administration, Shimeles Abdessa, could be held responsible for crimes against humanity, war crimes. They're afraid of that because it is asking even government officials to be held responsible, including what's happened in Tigray, for that to be where it is government officials that would be held accountable. When investigations of crimes against humanity, when investigations of genocide, when investigations of war crimes are being investigated, it is the leadership, the top leaders that are going to be held accountable, not really the low-level soldier, because it is the top leadership that is allowing this to happen, that is giving these orders. So they are afraid of being held accountable. So the reason why we like it from the accountability standpoint is that these, senior Prosperity Party members may, for their own interest, not because, they care about Amaras, for their own interest, may prevent these continued massacre of Amaras, because they're afraid of being held accountable. So will it stop at 100%? No. Could it reduce it? Possibly. Could it help, speed up justice? Possibly. But here's the thing that's really important for people to understand. We focus so much on what America is doing. We need to focus more about what our people are doing in Ethiopia. The reason why we raised $1.8 million and we work with registered, independent, established AMHARA organizations in Ethiopia is to strengthen those organizations, to scale their efforts, so that if they are strong, then they can defend themselves. The United States government is not going to send the military to end these atrocities. European governments are not going to send the military or the UN to end these atrocities. AMHARAs themselves in Ethiopia must organize, become strong to end these atrocities. And so, there is a lot of focus on that. Diplomacy is important, advocacy is important, but the most important thing we can do is to help our people in Ethiopia become strong. If we want the survival of Ethiopia, AMHARAs must survive, and AMHARAs must thrive if we want Ethiopia to survive and thrive as a country.
Thank you. Thank you, Teddy. I think it touched my question, so I'm going to pass it to the web. The question I was trying to ask you is about Magnitsky Act, which take responsible for the leaders, especially the embezzlement that I remember at the first era of HR 128, there was in the news media, as everybody knows, there was about $50 billion was embezzled out of that poor country. So that's why you guys put the Magnitsky Act, even though sadly HR 128 doesn't exist. So right now, HR 66, that was the question I was trying to ask. At the end, if you want to add something to it, I'm sure in the future, you may add or amend it, Magnitsky Act. So there's another question here.
Oh, no, well, just real quick there on there. So when that HR 128 was originally introduced in 2016, the Global Magnitsky Act had not become law yet. Yes. It became law in 2016. So when HR 128 was reintroduced again, then we could say, to use Global Magnitsky Act to hold perpetrators accountable. Since it's already an act and it is a law, the President of the United States, the State Department, that tool is available for them to use it without even HR 6600.
Thank you. Mulu, can you hear me? Let me see. Is the mic open? Let me open your mic.
Gosh. Samala?
Yes, Samala.
So, Teddy, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you in Amharic. So, please allow. Okay. So, ምንድነው የኔ ጥያቄ ሰማለሁ ጋሽ?
አዎ በደንብ ትሰማለህ ሙሉ።
ኦኬ የኔ ጥያቄ ምንድነው ማለት አሁን በአጠቃላይ በውጭም በአገር ውስጥም ያለው HR 6600 ካጀማመሩ አንደኛ በቂ አዌርነስ አልፈጠርንም ወይም ደግሞ የነበረን ትኩረት ጦርነቱ ላይ ነበር በአብዛኛው ጦርነቱን ከመንግስት ጋር ደግፈናል ከዛ በኋላ ደግሞ የተቀየረ ነገር አለ በዲፕሎማሲ ዲፕሎማሲ ወደ ኋላ የሆነበት ነገር አለ ነገር ግን አሁን አንተ በአስረዳህን ሁኔታ ከዚህም በፊትም ብዙ ጥያቄዎችን ጠይቄያለሁ ለመረዳት ሞክሬያለሁ አርቲክሉንም ያው ለማንበብ ሞክሬያለሁ እና እኔ የምጠይቅ ጥያቄ ግን ምንድነው TPLF የአማራ መንግስት ብቻ አታክ እንዲደረግ በዚህ ወንጀል የአማራና የኤርትራ መንግስት አታክ እንዲደረግ በጣም አጥብቀው እየሰሩ ነው የሚል ነገር አለ እና እናንተ ይሄን ነገር በምን ያህል አቅም ከነሱ ጋር ተወዳድራችሁ ወይም ደግሞ ቀጣዩን ስራ ማስተካከያውን እንዴት ማድረግ ትችላላችሁ ለዚህስ ማረጋገጫ ሊሰጠን ትችላለህ የሚል ነው። አመሰግናለሁ ለምታደርገው ሁሉ I really appreciate it and I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Teddy, did you understand the whole thing or do you want me?
If you can just kind of help make sure that I want to make sure I understand his question. So if you can just say it in English, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Mulu, if I made a mistake in translation, astakakling in Mulu.
Okay.
Okay. The question he asks is in a very simple word. TPLF has a part in it. Number one, you guys didn't really advocate on this HR66. The whole population more focused on the war than HR26. We didn't give him the spot or we didn't give him the stage it's supposed to be given. So he said with the power they have TPLF. TPLF has influence, but with the money they accused the Eritrean government or the Eritrean people and the AMHARAs mainly. So what makes you think you guys can fight this fight with limited sources you have, and then that are you gonna really be on top of HR 166 that can benefit the people, especially the people that you represent, which is the AMHARA people? Am I right, Mulu? Did I get it right?
በጣም ቆንጆ ነው። Thank you ጋሽ።
Thank you. Teddy, that's it.
So one of the things that I think is important for people to understand is, you know, the scale of the diplomatic influence of the AMHARA movement. Let me not just say AAA in the United States government. You know, we speak with the leadership of the House and Foreign Affairs Committee members on a regular basis. We meet with the State Department regularly, communicate via email on a regular basis. But for example, on March 3rd, we met with Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary Irvin Masinga, who is the number 2 in the Bureau of African Affairs. That was our second meeting. Our first meeting with him was November of last year. We met with the director for the National Security Director for the Horn of Africa twice. We were in a meeting of a briefing that Dana Banks had, you know, with Ethiopian American groups. Dana Banks reports directly to President Biden. She's in charge of essentially of his African policy from the National Security Council perspective. She's his senior advisor. Where we are in terms of like our diplomatic front is communicating with the highest levels of government here in the United States. Now, and the reason why we're able to do this is not just because of AAA by ourselves, it's because we work with, you know, members of AMHARA Association of Colorado and the other members of Federation of AMHARAs in North America, which are in LA, San Diego, Seattle, Dallas, everywhere. And when we do advocacy work, we do that together. So we don't have, our resources are not so little. I think you guys heard in some of these pro-Abbey you know, media activists that, you know, AAA spent $80,000, you know, on lobbying in 2021. We did, you know, on hiring a lobbying firm, not giving to political candidates, but that was our expenditure to the lobbying firm. But we've hired a lobbyist over 3 years, well, no, close to 3 years now. And the reason was because we couldn't manage it as a volunteer group and with just volunteers anymore. We needed to hire professionals and to scale up our lobbying, not just with foreign affairs, but also to communicate with USAID. We were part of the USAID briefing about 2 weeks ago. We communicated with USAID, you know, we communicate with them frequently, but also because we want to now scale our efforts to the other committee members. You know, the thing about advocacy and diplomacy is being committed, being consistent, communicating on a regular basis. Your Congressman Jason Crow's office, some of you from the Colorado area, they called me last week to talk to me about HR6600. I didn't call them. They called me to get our perspective on our view. But that's because we've been working so hard to, you know, have that type of relationship where they can call and ask our feedback and our thoughts on that bill. So what's important to do for AMHARAs across the country and not just here in the US, but also in Canada and other democracies, is to be engaged. Call your member of Congress, go to the town halls, visit, introduce yourself, contribute to political campaigns. You don't have to contribute $1,000 or $5,000. You can contribute 50. You can contribute 100. You can contribute $20. It adds up. It makes a difference. And this is how we can make a difference. The AMHARA and Ethiopian struggle is going to be a long struggle. It's not going to be solved in 6 months or 1 year or 5 years. Don't forget, our country is over 3,000 years old. We're a very, very old civilization. So when you think about AMHARAs, when you think about Ethiopia, don't think in terms of what's happened, in the past, what's happened the past 3 years or 4 years and what's going to happen for the next, 6 months or 3 years. Think about what can we do to impact our people and country for the next 500 years, for the next 1,000 years. Our ancestors established this society, this civilization, thousands of years ago. They gave us a language system. It's the only language system in sub-Saharan Africa. They gave us a pure religion, a pure culture that is organic, that comes from that land. So we should not be afraid. I don't understand sometimes of our people why they are afraid. It's always the TPLF this, or this and this. Let's stand strong on our own. We can do that. Our ancestors did it. Why can't we do that here ourselves? We should not approach things, we should not approach problems from fear. We should always approach problems from confidence and with a solution and implement that solution. So, when I was raised by, parents, aunts and uncles that were staunchly, Ethiopian nationalists, extremely proud people. So, I've never been afraid that Ethiopia will not exist. What does that mean, Ethiopia will not exist? Is this the toughest problem that Ethiopia has faced? Is the problem that we're facing right now bigger than Italy, one of the most powerful countries at the time when they invaded Ethiopia? We can't resolve this problem? I think so we shouldn't be that afraid. And so I think part of the challenge for us as a people is to regain this confidence that our ancestors had. Our ancestors were fearless. Why are we so afraid? So when we think of things, and this is really AAA, as an organization, we think about, okay, here's a problem, let's strategize, let's see if we can implement something over the next 50 or 100 years. You're right, when this bill 6600 was introduced on February 4th, we didn't put out a public statement. We were working with the authors and co-sponsors, working on amending, fixing some things. But when the misinformation and disinformation came out, was going out there, when there was a character assassination against our organization, and really not just our organization, we felt against the AMHARA movement, we had no choice but to go public. So, I hope Mulu, I was able to answer your question, but this is my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Teddy. I tried to bring ተመስገን አድማጮቻችን ለነበረን ቆይታ ደስ ይለናል። ማነው ሰፊ ውይይት አድርገናል። በተለይ አቶ ቴድሮስ ትርፌ በደንብ ነው ኤክስፕሌን ያደረገው። HR 66 ብዙ ነገሮች ይወራሉ። the same people support ያደረጉ HR 128ን ይህን ቢል ይቃወሙታል። ታንጀብል የሆነ የሚዳሰስ የሚጨበጥ what's your reason ብትሏቸው አጥጋቢ ምክንያት አይሰጡም። ሰው እየተገደለ ሰው እየተጨፈጨፈ መቀጠል አለበት። what should we do? ሰው ልጅ ኃይል ሲያንሰው we have to do something. Anyway, Teddy, I tried to reach Temasget. Somehow he's not answering his phone. If we have a time, we'll bring him as an interview by ETHIOPIAN Voice. And we appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, or we know how busy you are, for taking your time. If you have any last word, unless, let me see if there's somebody who is asking a question. No, there's nobody. So if you have last word, and we wrap up this Zoom meeting, and then we go to our local meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I can say is, again, I want to, thank the organizers for organizing this. When we established, we're from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a very, very small Ethiopian, community here. We're fortunate to find, people here that were willing to be committed and work hard and be consistent. And then over time, we found people across the country that wanted to contribute in a meaningful way and make a contribution, for AMHARAs in Ethiopia. Let's not think about, that we need to have, hundreds of people or thousands of people. Real tangible work gets done by committed people. Real tangible work gets done by committed people, regardless of how big or how small it is. Let's not be afraid. Let's not approach things from the perspective of fear. As I said from earlier, our ancestors were brave people that faced airplanes, chemical weapons, tanks, machine guns. But our ancestors overcame all of this. So if we can come together, work together, be proud of who we are as AMHARAs, be proud of who we are as Ethiopians, then we can, we can defeat TPLF. We can have the right type of leaders in Ethiopia that care about all Ethiopians and that care about this country. One of the main reasons that we have in Ethiopia is leadership that doesn't care about this country. If we had real leaders that care about this country would not be seeing the problems it is facing, would not be facing the problems it is facing right now. If we had leadership that values life, we would not see the genocide that's been committed against us right now. Do any of you here believe that Prime Minister Abiy values life, the life of AMHARAs? When a few people get killed here in America, it becomes huge news. The President of the United States will speak on it. Members of Congress will speak on it. The President of the United States will usually go and console the people, console the victims. Have we seen, Abiy do that? When all those massacres are happening in Benshangul Gumuz, in Oromia region, have we seen Abiy sit with the women who are victims of sexual violence and say, I'm sorry that this happened to you. I will be there to help you. Why is it that AMHARAs in the diaspora provided free psychotherapy training for these women who were raped? It should be the government, right? If they cared. Why is it, it has been over 2 years that there isn't any electricity in Wolkai? That the government employees in Wolkai have not been paid? That the school had to shut down because the teachers were not being paid? If we had a government that cares about Wolkai, that cares about the people there, after they have suffered all these, suffering for all, 40 plus years, they would be providing electricity. They would be paying, they would have a budget. They would be paying these teachers. They would be paying these doctors. They would be paying these civil servants. So that change would only come if we all come together, work hard, demand better leadership, and hold our leaders and have leaders that we hold to a higher standard. So you can do that by being here. You can make a difference. There's a midterm election. As I said earlier, your members of Congress are going to be coming. Go to those town halls, visit, introduce yourself, educate them, explain the situation, ask them that you want them to condemn the actions of the TPLF. Educate them about what's happening to the women, the destruction of the schools, the clinics, the hospitals. And I guarantee you, if you do that because they want your vote, they want your support, you will see change start to happen. So that's all I want to say. Thank you, and I hope you all have a a good rest of your day. And please, there's no reason for any of you to lose hope or to be afraid. Thank you, and take care.